Welcome again, friends. Welcome you to the second part of our chapter number 2 from NCERT 10th Standard English, Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. In the first part, we have discussed about the person himself, Nelson Mandela. He is a freedom fighter and a very world-renowned freedom fighter who fought against the white people for their oppression and apartheid system against the black people. He, in reality, freed black people of South Africa from the exploitation, oppression of the white people in the name of racism. He almost spent his 30 years of young age in prison, and ultimately he freed South African people, black people, from the oppression of the white people, and he became the first president after the first democratic elections taken place in South Africa. It is also called as inauguration. It is inauguration of the free nation from the white rule. So this is the autobiography excerpt. We read up to the pledge that was taken by Nelson Mandela as he became the president of South Africa. Now we are going further for the reading what he says about his feeling on the same day. So now he remembers the day. He is very glorified. He is feeling very proud of the achievement of the black people, especially the South African people. He describes the display of glory and celebration that was taken place in South Africa on the very day. So this is where we start. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in respect as a spectacular era of South African jets, the way we can see in Delhi at the time of Republic Day, in the time of Independence Day, especially the Republic Day, how the display of our military strength is there over there. The same kind of displays is there from the South African troops. Helicopters and troop carriers roared in perfect formation over the Union buildings. It was not only a display of pinpoint precision, but they were doing it so accurately and military force, but a demonstration of the military's loyalty to democracy. They are now in the form of this display actually swearing, taking their oath that they would remain loyal to the democracy of South Africa. Loyalty to a new government that had been freely and fairly elected for the first time, obviously. Only moments before, now he remembers the day, the generals who are taking oath, they are also white people. Earlier, there were the people who arrested him. Now the same people are saluting him. So he's recalling this paradoxical situation. He's also proud of himself and his race, and is very glorified remembering all these things. He says, highest generals of the South African Defence Force and Police, their chest decorated with ribbons and medals from the days gone by, saluted me and pledged their loyalty. I was not unmindful, he still remembers of the fact that not so many years ago, before, they would not have saluted but arrested me. So he remembers that harsh moment, the adversities that he had faced, and now the glory that he is now facing right now, is now enjoying right now. Finally, a chevron of Impala, the way the jets actually fly in the V shape, is called as chevron. Impala is the name of military jet trainers actually, are designed actually in Italy. So very famous aircrafts. So chevron of Impala jets left a smoke trail of the black, red, green, blue, and gold of the new South African flag. Along with the inauguration of the new nation, new system, it is also the inauguration of the new South African glorified flag in the form of smoke left behind by the jets. So it's a very glorious moment for the black people, for the President of South Africa, Nelson Mandela. Now he further says, the day was symbolized for me by the playing of Malab. Now he remembers the day. Uh, there are two national anthems. The new one that is just written, inaugurated, and recently at the time of struggle movement, sung by the black people, and the old Republic national anthem was another one that has been sung by these white people when the South Africa was a republic. So both the national anthems, with a due respect, are sung by all the kind of people, regardless of, without any hatred that was earlier there in the hearts of the people. So he remembers this moment very proudly over there. The day was symbolized for me by the playing of the two national anthems and the vision of whites singing, these white people singing the national anthem sung by the black people, Nkosi Saikelel I Africa. And the blacks are singing without any grudge in their hearts the old national anthem of the republic that was actually originated by white people, and they were singing Die Standard, old anthem of the republic. Although the day neither group knew the lyrics of the Malab at that time, as both the anthems were not sung by all the people, so both of them were not known by all the people. Still, they were singing so enthusiastically, and he's very hopeful that they would soon remember them by heart, just the way we do with our national anthem. So it's all the matter of hope and aspirations. So they're all singing the national anthem. Once they despised, they hated, they would soon know the words by heart. So it's very helpful. On the day of inauguration, I was overwhelmed with a sense of history. What is the history behind it? In the first decade of the 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War, now he remembers the bittermost time of the struggle of the South African people, black people. Anglo-Boer War is very famous all over the world. It is a war between British Empire and two Boer. Boer means, Boer in the African language, farmer, simpleton, very ordinary people. So two Boer states, South African Republic and Orange Free State. So this war is also called as South African War. So he remembers that war, that that kind of exploitation, that oppression, that feeling of shame, that feeling of inferiority. And before my own birth, the white-skinned, he remembers the conspiracy of the white people, what actually descended from Europe. They united together and oppressed the black people. And this is the place, this is the moment from where the apartheid system really originated. So he remembers that bitter moment here in the autobiography. A few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth, the white-skinned peoples of South Africa patched up. They become friendly. They forgot all their grudges and they become united. So they forgot all the differences and erected. They stood up. They started. They established their system of racial domination against the dark-skinned people of their own land. The structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest, now he's talking about that apartheid political system, harshest, most inhumane, cruelmost societies the world has ever known. Now in the last decade of the 20th century and my own 8th decade, Malawi is now crossed 80 years of age. The system had been overturned forever and replaced by one of their recognized the rights and freedoms of peoples regardless of their color of their skin. So now he is very satisfied by the knowledge that now there is no more apartheid system, there is no more discrimination, people get equal right regardless of their color of skin. So he's very proud and very satisfied with what they have done. That day had come about through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of people. Now he remembers all the martyrs, all the freedom fighters who had sacrificed their lives, uh, suffered a lot, but they are no more alive to see the victory, to see the celebration of the victory, to see this inauguration of the new freed nation. So he is very regretful that he is not able to pay the homage and be thankful to those people, but he remembers their sacrifices. So these words are devotion to these martyrs and freedom fighters. People whose suffering and courage can never be counted or repaid. I felt that day, as I on so many other days, that I was simply the sum of Malawi is the outcome of all the African patriots, the one who worships the nation, Deshbhakt, who had gone before me. That long and noble line ended and now began again with me. The line of the patriotism been started and is now blazing the trail leading right from the very front. I was pained that I was not able to thank them and that they were not able to see what their sacrifices had wrought. Wrought means achieved, done. The policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound. Now he says that though people have come out of the slavery, they are now free, there is now harmony, but the wound of their suffering is so deep, so painful that they would take number of years to forget about it. So he's very hopeful that people would forget it very soon. They will not take generations, but it will take some time for the people to get out of this trauma that they've been suffering for a long back. All of us will spend many years, if not generations, recovering from that profound, very deep and strong hurt. The decades of operation. Now he sees the another side of the operation, as we have the idiom, that proverb, that test of fire produces the finest steel. So the same thing applies over here. The operation produces the finest of the characters. Like the other countries, this operation from the white people, from the black people, had produced many great characters, heroes, martyrs, freedom fighters, and they've learnt a lot in the name of human values and trades which they could have never learnt without this kind of operation, this fiery test in the name of fight against the apartheid system. So remembers the positive side of this operation. He says the decades of oppression and brutality, cruelty, oppression, exploitation, tyranny, though unintended effect, that was that. The effect of this operation was never intended. Nobody intends for such effect. Nobody intends learning some good things out of this operation, but it was a byproduct. That was that it produced the Oliver Tambos. These are the great names of the freedom fighters, those who fought for the black people, and they become immortal in their own, and they are the result of the oppression that they suffered. So some names given over there. He remembers those names: Walter Cecilus, Chief Luthulis, the Yusuf Dadus, the Bram Fishers, Robert Shubakovs of our time. They are the men of such extraordinary. See, friend, these are the sketches of those people. I'm giving you a task to find out their origins, their nationalities, and the work they have done. Oliver Tambo, Cecilu, Chief Luthuli, these are the sketches of them. Have a keen look at them. So they are the extraordinary courage, wisdom, and generosity. These are the traits they have learnt while struggling that freedom, that the like may never be known again. Perhaps it requires such depth of operation. Well, if you want to learn such traits, especially like courage, you require to pass through under a lot of exploitation, fear that prompts you to get out of it, to win against it, and and cultivate courage into you. So this is what he talks about, to create such heights of character. My country is rich in minerals. Obviously, South Africa is rich in minerals. There are mines of diamonds and gems that lie beneath its soil. But according to him, the real strength and the wealth of the nation is the people of the nation. They are the finer one, truer one than the purest diamonds that is extracted from the mines of South Africa. This is what is feeling for the people of South Africa. It is from those comrades, now he says, from where he had learnt courage, from his companions that cooperated him in his struggle for freedom. It is from those comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage. Time and again and again, repeatedly, I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. I have seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience. Matlab, how people, when see the fear, when see the kind of oppression, stand up very courageously, ready to bear the torture. They never get broken down. They show the kind of strength, the kind of toughness, resilience, whatever that is beyond the imagination of the ordinary man, that defies, challenges the imagination of the ordinary man. I learned the courage was not the absence of fear. According to him, courage is not what you show when fear is not there. Courage is what you show to overcome the fear. If you win against the fear, would be called as courageous. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph, the victory over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but the one who conquers, win, gets victory over the fear. डर के आगे जीत है. This is what he has learned from this struggle for freedom. Actual meaning of courage. Further, he says he believes in Gandhian principles of loving everyone, being harmonious and friendly to everyone. He feels if people can be taught hatred, can also be taught love. Love is easier to be taught than the hatred. So he says no one is born hating another person because of the color of skin. Hating another person is taught by some peaceful, selfish people in the name of caste, creed, religion, tongue, color. They actually instigate the young one, the amateurs, and incline them to hate the other people. So if they can be taught hating, they can also be taught loving. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. Because love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite, hatred. He gives an example. When he was in prison, there was a guard. Obviously, guard is there to watch him, to suppress him. But sometimes, maybe for a moment, that guard showed him some humanity. He was liberal to him. So he had seen the positive side of that particular incident. He says, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, had to bear the extreme pain beyond their ability, I would see a slight glimpse of humanity, the sign of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure that glimmer of humanity from that guard, maybe for a second, assured him that man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but can never be extinguished. Goodness in human being can be suppressed but can never be destroyed. It strikes at right times. So friends, this is what he feels about courage and love. Further he says, in life every man has twin obligations, responsibility, duty. Obligations to his family. Now he comes to the another uh, opinion. He here talks about sacrificing the aspects of life, the needs of life, making choices. So he talks about the duty towards different things, nation, state, family, for oneself. So he talks about how he sacrificed his family life and how he selected the nation. In life, every man has twin obligations, obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children, and he has an obligation to his people, his community, his country. In a civilian, humane society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. Inclination matlab his tendencies, his natural behavior. But in a country like South Africa is not the different situation from India. Can be also applicable to us also. It was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both those obligations. Well, if you choose family, you cannot serve the nations wholeheartedly, and vice versa. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. Well, even the natural, ordinary human life was also not possible in under the apartheid system that he talks about. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably, definitely removed from his family, is taken out from his family. They have to sacrifice their family life if you want to serve the nation. And his woman was forced to live a life apart, away from the family. So they have to live a twilight existence of secrecy. Twilight, two types of secrecy and rebellion. They have to keep certain secrets and they have to have the rebellious attitude into them. They should be having the attitude of great oppose against something unjust. So that is called as the rebellion, Bagi. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family. Initially selected family above the nation. But in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son. He didn't even know that Javi had dragged to the nation and gone away from the family. So he very unknowingly ripped himself from the family duties as a son, brother, father, and a husband. Further, he says, I was not born with a hunger to be free. He did not have that instinct of a freedom fighter, that hunger of freeing his nation. But certain incidents happened to him, inclined him to go for fight for the freedom. So this is, he talks about, I was born free in every way that I could know, free to run in the fields near my mother's hut, free to swim in the, he had got all the freedom that he had known. So here he clarifies what freedom he had was actually not freedom. He misinterpreted freedom. So what happened to him that made him realize the real term freedom? So it's a very important phase of the chapter, friends. Free to swim in that clear stream that ran through my village, free to roast mealies, that corn on the cob, under the stars and ride the broad backs of the slow moving bulls, all the childhood pranks and games and all that. As long as I obeyed my father and abided, stayed with, lived with the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. Malab, these white people of that time, or they're also called as so-called God. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion. It was not a real freedom. And I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, that I began to hunger for it. But all the fundamental rights, all the liberty, all the freedom to shape their destiny in their own way would be called as real freedom. And that was already taken away from him right from the very birth, as they were suppressed, as they were the victim of apartheid. That is what he talks about. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself, the transitory freedoms, not a permanent temporary one, of being able to stay out at night, that he was not allowed to read what I pleased and go where I chose. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, South Africa's biggest city, that is in Gauteng province, maybe the financial capital, I yearned for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, malab, the kind of money or the kind of thing that he earns by performing certain work by himself, of marrying and having a family, freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. Well, we want a real freedom, liberty to shape his life and destiny the way he wanted, and that was not had by him. But then slowly I saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed, restricted, reduced. The freedom of everyone who looked like I did, matlab all the black people. From this is where he had desired to get freedom, permanent one, thorough one, not the partial one. Purna Swaraj, that was Gandhian desire. That is when I joined the African National Congress. And that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. So this is the point where he became a real patriot and started thinking about his own people rather than himself. It was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self-respect and animated my life. Malab, that really made my life very much interesting and energetic. That transformed a frightened, malab, that desire of getting freedom for the people of my country really transformed him from a frightened man to a very bold and a brave man, made him courageous. And that drove a law abiding attorney to become a criminal. In order to become an attorney, a lawyer, and now for the freedom fight, he had to go to jail, so he's become criminal in the eyes of those people. It's a very ironical, paradoxical statement over there. That turned a family loving husband into a man without a home. He had to be away from home because of the freedom fight and left his family. That forced a life loving man to a life like a live like a monk. He had to be away from all the material pleasure, all the homely, luxurious life, comfortable life, and he had to wander like a monk, like a saint, like a ascetic man. I'm no more virtuous or self-sacrificing than the next man, the ordinary man. He is very down to earth. He says, I'm not boasting of my being virtuous or only I have done the sacrifices. Every next man had done the same for the freedom. But I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. He was not selfish enough to see only his freedom. He cared about the people's freedom. last black person when is not free, freedom is not complete according to him. He wanted a freedom that is indivisible, that is full. The chains on any one of my people, one of the slavery of black people, any one of them, were the chains that he felt upon him. The chains on all of my people were the chains on me. I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. Now, a very important point that he talks. He says that when an oppressor, the wicked person, when oppressing his victim, his conscience also bites him. So he's also not liberated. He's also not free from the chains of his own conscience. So when he frees the victim from his oppression, he also becomes liberated from his own bondage upon his conscience, his 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 soul. So a man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is himself bound by his vices, ill traits like hatred. He's suffering from, he's behind the bars of Malab, he's imprisoned by the vices of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. Prejudice Malab being prejudgmental or having an ill feeling before knowing the particular person would be called as prejudice. Purvagra. I'm not truly free if I'm taking away someone else's freedom, just as surely as I'm not free when my freedom is taken from me. So if you slave somebody, you're also the slave of your own vices like hatred and prejudice and narrow-mindedness. So that is a very heavy burden upon your conscience. So if he wants to be free, he has to let the victim of his oppression free. The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. So at the end, he maybe want to give us the message that we should love the people, we should not harass anyone in the name of caste and creed and tongue and color. We should see everyone equally and allow them to enjoy their life and rights equally. So we should salute the freedom fighter and struggler like Nelson Mandela. Is a real mirror image of Gandhiji. This is we end our chapter, the second part of Nelson Mandela and his long walk to freedom. Thank you very much. I'm sending you the question answers, friends. Learn the question answer, ask if any query arises, and also write it down and submit it to me via WhatsApp. Thank you very much.